Hi everyone, Halo Saranko here with a new Shakti Temple talk about orgasms. I've had a few requests for this one, so I'm finally getting to it. Here you all go. So, orgasms. They are such a powerful experience, such an amazing mechanism of our bodies, of our energy, of our consciousness even. Orgasm is a state of deep union between all the aspects of self, between the physical body, between the energetic body. The mind even stops. It's like we're just expanding into an experience for however long that lasts. In the Tantric and Taoist perspective, because of the power of this experience, we want to stretch it to make it last as long as possible, whether you are a male-bodied being or a female-bodied being. Now, our orgasmic potential is very different depending on the physical vessel that we're in. However, it is very possible for both men and women to have these extended states of orgasm, and the level of consciousness, the level of all-out merger with existence, the level of communion, the level of pleasure, of all the good things that come with an extended state of orgasm. So I'm going to start with the female anatomy of orgasm and the different types that we can have, because the female anatomy is quite the orgasmic potential in a lot of different ways. And also a lot of women actually struggle with anorgasm, which is not being able to have orgasms. So I want to explore that as well. So first of all, one of the most obvious and immediate orgasms that women experience are clitoral orgasms. Clitoral orgasms are the most akin to the masculine orgasm, or the orgasm of a lingam. So this one tends to be explosive, tends to be a more outpouring energy. It's a very big experience. And they, even for women, tend to be what are referred to as terminal orgasms. So a masculine orgasm, which we're used to the normal masculine orgasm coming with an ejaculation, tends to be terminal. You know, there's a loss of energy. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to put any kind of shame concepts here at all. It's what we're designed to do, what men are designed to do. But there is a loss of energy, and that's usually the marker for the end of a sexual encounter. So on the female side, it can also be a terminal orgasm when it is clitoral, meaning that our level of arousal drops, that the clit itself will oftentimes become overly sensitive in a not good way afterwards, and we go through what's called a refractory period, where we need to like recalibrate the system to be able to then go into more stimulation. Now, it depends on the woman. Some women can have multiple orgasms clitorally pretty close together. Other women don't want to be touched for a while after a clitoral orgasm. So that's just one of many different types of orgasms that women can have. The clitoral is not where the sustained orgasm is going to come from. That one's pretty much always going to be, we can extend it a little bit, but that one's always going to be kind of this big build and then drop. So if we look at the orgasm in like a peak, we're building up to it, and then we have that peak and then we drop off. What we're looking to do with sustained orgasm is to climb gradually to that peak and then kind of plateau and expand that experience, and not have quite such a significant drop off afterwards. So we have intravaginal orgasms that we can have. So the first being one that we're familiar with is from the G-spot, which is just inside. If you feel that pelvic bone, that bony ridge when you reach inside, it's just behind that. It's this nice spongy area that will oftentimes fill with fluid during our arousal. So we have the urethra, and the urethral sponge is under that, and that sponge is why it feels spongy. And that sponge, as part of our arousal process, fills with this lovely fluid that the neo-tantrics like to refer to as Amrita. And this is where the Amrita orgasm comes in. But we'll get to that in a minute. So G-spot orgasm, these are the intravaginal orgasms, and there are a few different places. There's a spot, I think it's called the A spot, back closer towards the cervix, but on that same upper side of the vagina, of the yoni. And so we can have vaginal orgasms in this way. These ones tend to be, I feel like a lot of women have these orgasms, but they don't recognize them because we compare most orgasms to the male orgasm, to this kind of sharp peak and drop experience. And the intravaginal orgasms are different than this. These are the ones that are much easier to sustain, but they're more subtle. So when we're looking for that really explosive experience, we're not going to find that. These tend to be more implosive orgasms rather than explosive, which makes sense. The clitoris is on the outside of the body. These are on the inside of the body. So these are the ones we really want to work with if we want to start to expand and build into deeper orgasmic states. Now, this can take a while for a woman. It said in the Taoist system that a man's sexual energy is like fire. It starts out as fire, and it's that hot experience. It's like quick to heat up, but then also quick to burn out. Whereas the feminine is like water, and so it can take us a while to get to that boiling point, but once we do, we can just keep boiling and boiling and boiling, making all kinds of steam. And we need fire for that, right? So both elements work together. We can also then help the masculine to sustain an orgasmic state. We can bring them into that sustained orgasmic state that we're in. It's really powerful. So the intravaginal orgasms tend to be, like I'm saying, more subtle. So one of the biggest things we want to do as women to start to work towards these kind of experiences is to release a lot of tension. If we're holding a lot of tension in the pelvic area, that can be counter to having these experiences. But we also want to be strong. So it's this interesting balance of creating relaxed and yet dynamic muscles in the pelvic floor. This is why we can use the Jade egg practices, but we also want to use those in conjunction with self-massage, with de-armoring, with these kinds of things, what I call vaginal acupressure. So more attention to these areas, not using vibrators. If we want to start having these more subtle experiences of orgasm, and when I say subtle, it's not that the orgasm is barely perceptible, it's that it's not, again, that really big experience that we're used to having. So we want to get rid of the vibrators because those actually desensitize. We need more stimulation, and we get kind of addicted to those big peak and drop orgasms. If we want to start attuning to this ability to have intravaginal orgasms, we want to get rid of that. We want to start to attune to more and more sensation, which is another thing that the Jade egg practices, a lot of the Taoist practices, sexuality practices that I teach are orienting us towards. So we want to spend more time down there. We want to take more time with her because that's what it takes. We want to bring the whole body into this very aroused state where if someone just lightly runs the fingers, it's like if I'm in an unaroused state, yeah, it feels nice, but it's like, you know, we want to get it to that point that you get goosebumps and that you can feel it in other parts of your body when you're being touched in these different areas. We want to sensitize the nipples. We want to sensitize everything, right? Our tongue, our mouth, our whole body can be an erogenous zone. So to sustain those intravaginal orgasms, we want to come into this place of a deep sensitivity, of a deep relaxation, and from that relaxation we can respond to the energy and how it's moving and start to build and enhance and grow that energy and our experience of it. So we've covered clitoral, we've covered G-spot, intravaginal orgasms. Next, we can also, of course, have, well, I shouldn't say of course, not everybody knows this, but we can have anal orgasms. So there is enough of an erogenous zone in the anus to be able to orgasm from this space as well. And it's a very deep, primal kind of orgasm that we can have from the anus. For many women, that involves also stimulation elsewhere to be able to relax and open back there. And the one I'm most excited to talk about, there's so many. We can also have nipple orgasms. You can actually sensitize the nipples to the place that you can orgasm just from nipple stimulation. We can have breath orgasms, this place where we can just breathe in, and again, it's just becoming so attuned to the sensation of the body, to the sensation of air on the skin, to how we're taking the breath. We're trying to turn ourselves into like a satellite that's like receiving the orgasmic energy of the universe, basically. So, via sensation, via sensuality. But the orgasm I want to really talk about here is the cervical orgasm, because this is the one for women. This is where it's like the portal of the universe opens up. If we think of the cervix, it looks like that, and enters into the womb, which is where we grow and gestate life. It's incredible. But this orgasm takes a very deep state of consciousness. It takes a lot of safety. It takes, we have to be able to open on every level of being into the experience. Their heart has to be involved. The consciousness has to be involved. It's a very particular experience. When it happens, this is when we have the like full body orgasm experience, and where we melt. It's no longer, if we're like with a lover, this is when two become one. This is when one becomes everything, when it's just this profound experience, and it can just keep going, and it will often come in waves. It's like waves that are building on top of each other. So we have all these potentials, and then with the G-spot, we also have the potential of Amrita orgasms, which I said I'd say a little bit more about, which is where we actually, it's also referred to as squirting, where we female ejaculate, where fluid actually comes out during the orgasm. And this can be, unlike the male orgasm where they can lose energy through this experience, for women, this is a deeply flushing and healing experience. I actually went through a 4-year healing journey with HPV, cervical dysplasia, and one of the practices that I used to heal, to naturally heal myself, was Amrita orgasms. Just really fleshing out any held stuck energy there, any traumas and all of that. And it's a deeply pleasurable experience, and also one that can happen over and over again. It's not that same peak and drop experience. So that's all on the feminine side of things. On the masculine side of things, we can start, and women can do this also with clitoral orgasms, we can start to reverse the flow that the energy wants to go. So the energy wants to go down and out in those types of orgasms, which makes sense. That's how procreation happens. But we can start to reverse that flow. And for men, you can actually start to separate orgasm from ejaculation, because they're two separate functions that happen together. The muscles will start to contract. They do that in a woman as well during clitoral orgasms, which pushes the semen out. But you can start to implode that. And there's also a necessity on the masculine part to also become more attuned to subtlety. And when two come together, so this is a very heterosexual talk for now, but we all have the polarities. So the polarities are going to be at play in a sexual encounter regardless. But so if it's a man with a man, you can still play with polarities, but your functioning just from the literal physical structure is going to be the same for what I'm saying here for a man. If it's two women, it'll be more like what I explained earlier. So this fits all sexual orientations, all sexual preferences, but the mechanism of the literal physicality is going to be different depending on the body that you're in. So if a man and a woman come together, there is a way that as you, or any partner, I don't even want to just stick in that binary, but when you come together with another being, there is a beautiful experience. You know, we can have our own experience, we can take pleasure with another being, but it's only so fulfilling. It's when we really start to merge and open to, and or take, or not take in a bad way, but like to take someone, you know, to really like ravish someone, where we can come together and it's just like this dance of breath. And as we start to more and more deeply attune with the other and feel that energy moving, we can start to share experiences of pleasure. So yes, a man might be limited to this particular orgasmic state, but as a woman is opening into these deeper, you know, maybe a cervical orgasm, an intravaginal orgasm, a man can go along on that ride with the woman. But there's a way that of feeling into the other. And this happens with women as well. It's like to be able to feel into the other's pleasure, and to start to find that cohesive wave to ride, so that when these orgasmic states start to happen, it's not just on one side or the other, but both partners get to be pulled into this expanse. And the goal with this kind of the term that's coming right now, I feel silly saying it, but I'm going to say it, but enlightened sexuality, is that we're trying to move from duality into unity. And so we can actually carry each other, ourselves and each other, into a state of no boundaries, into this boundless state of bliss, of ecstasy. And this is what draws us to be together in lovemaking, is that we feel separate a lot of the time. You know, we have this particular way we identify ourselves. We're longing for the other. And when we have that beloved and then we come together, it's like sex is like this moment, hopefully longer than a moment, but many moments, this amala of moments that we get to be in divine union, that we get to feel our wholeness and our fullness. And we don't need the other to experience this. We want to be able to practice experiencing this without that, but this is a way that we can use this practice to really anchor in that state. So as we go into these deeper, longer, more profound orgasmic experiences, this is one of the goals for becoming non-ejaculatory as a man, is to be able to continue going, because it's like, as far as we can go, why not? Why not try to go all the way? And when I say all the way, into that state of complete merger. Now it takes humility on both sides. It takes an ability to really deeply open, to really deeply listen and feel into the other. But these states are there and available for all of us to explore. So that is what I have to share about orgasm. And I think that we all have this potential. I know we all have this potential, and we all have this yearning. Like, I feel like this is what we're ultimately all going for when we seek these kind of experiences. So share them with people that you deeply admire, that you deeply care about, that you deeply love. That create that safe container, that container where you can really deeply express and go into that feeling. And this is where we'll be able to have these profound orgasmic experiences. So I hope that gave some inspiration. And if you want to know more about these states, I don't have a course for men currently, but I do have a course for women called the Jade Temple Online Initiation, where you learn a lot of practices for attuning to those energies, attuning to your power, attuning to the subtleties, so that you can, learning how to move and channel the energy through the body to facilitate these states. So I'll put that link below. You can check out the course. It's open enrollment, a lifetime of material to practice and be with. And I also work one-on-one, so if anyone is curious about working one-on-one and diving into these realms, via private mentorship, you can reach out to me on my website, shaktitemplearts.com, and we can explore opening the gates to this terrain more in that way. So sending so much love to all of you, and I wish for all of you to experience this in your life many, many times, because it's such a beautiful state, and our potential is just the capacity we have for pleasure, for union, for communion as humans is immense, and it is one of the most beautiful experiences we can have. So I wish that for all of you. Sending so much love, and thanks for tuning in.